place to be is living free in Tennessee.
Welcome to Living Free in Tennessee, where we talk about building the life you choose on your terms. Today is Friday, March 21st, 2025, and this is episode 1018 of Living Free in Tennessee. And it's a Friday show, so it's Homestead Happenings, and we're going to talk about what it's been like in the last 7 days to go through all 4 seasons. We had spring, summer, winter, and fall here in the last 7 days. Would you say that's right, T? Yeah, he says yes, but he's not wearing his microphone, so I just got the thumbs up from across the room. Because, of course, he's late to the show, as usual, because he had to make his coffee. And
I was late to the show because when I came in to make my cup of coffee, somebody else was making 2 cups of coffee.
Well, that's because my first cup of coffee was just water. The beans got stuck and didn't feed into the thing. And we can't do a show on just water. Like, that's not allowed now, is it? He's not going to answer because he's still not wearing his mic. Anyway, here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about it being 26 degrees this morning, which was cold AF. And Tactical not knowing that it had frozen. We're also going to talk about Tactical getting into the screen. Oh, look, there you are.
I'm also not the one that positioned the chairs.
Well, I positioned it because it's easier to sit on the corner and be close without it feeling like somebody's on top of somebody else. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about progress on the prepper pantry. We're going to talk about a whole bunch more stuff going on around here. It's heating up. Good morning, DFW. Welcome to the live stream. Before I do that, I want to talk about our featured event of today's show, and it's over at at Haven Earth Trade School. Haven Earth Trade School is down in Old Fort, Tennessee, and they're doing a solstice gathering. So if you want to check that out, I believe it's tomorrow from 2 to 4 p.m. If you're in that area. It costs $22, and it's on March 22nd. So I think that's just done as a sort of a cool little gimmick. If you want to let them know you're coming, go to Fable. I don't know where Fable Haven is the name of a totally different company. Anyway, go to Haven Earth Trade School, click on the contact form. They don't have the event listed on their website. They've been promoting it over Instagram. So I would shoot them an email with the contact form there. I believe those go to Amani. She's going to want to know if you're coming or not. They're doing tours and all sorts of fun stuff at the trade school. And they do have, I believe they have the bones of their first hemp residential building up right now. So that'd be really fun to go look at that as well. And speaking of spring, it's spring today.
Yeah.
Are you excited about that?
The dogs are really excited about that.
Yeah, I think the little one wants out.
Yeah, the problem is I just let the big one out.
Well, you can let the big one back out and let the little one out. She's like literally whining around. She's probably audible on the podcast. What do you guys think?
She might be.
Yeah, Beth Emily says it was cold this morning, and I'm in South Carolina. Yeah, it was cold here too. I looked out, and I had to look for a while to verify that it hadn't snowed last night because we did have precipitation yesterday. But it was just a lot of frost. There was a lot of frost on everything. I'm glad I didn't have cover for my aquaponics bed, so I just put dog blankets on it. Worked fine. And then I put plastic over the 2 garden beds that have like broccoli and that sort of stuff in them. And the garlic was fine. So I didn't even worry about that. But yeah, just white, fluffy sounding stuff going on there. Did he walk out with his microphone on? That would be funny. Anyway, Chestnut, if you heard Chestnut being yelled for, no, he didn't. I was like, I heard him yelling. I was like, uh-oh, y'all are going to hear the Chestnut call.
I'm smart enough to take the mic off before I walk out.
I mean, I would totally forget that. Even though I'm smart also. Are you saying I'm dumb?
No, I didn't say anything about you. I said I'm smart enough to take the mic off before I walk outside and start screaming for a dog.
Anyway, I do want to thank 2 sponsors today. The first one is Above Phone. Above Phone helps you keep your data private. I'm going to tell you a story today about why that might be something you want to do, because the scams are getting cleverer and cleverer as we go on. Go to abovephone.com And if you use the coupon code LivingFreeInTN, which is for Living Free in Tennessee, or sorry, it's Live Free TN, then you get $50 off any of the phones that you buy from them. And they come like straight out of the box. You just boot it up, put your PIN in, and the operating system's ready to go. You can put your SIM card in the phone. You do need to learn a few different apps and things, but if you want to access apps that you like to use and they aren't super privacy enabled, you can like make a little box for it and put it in that box, and then it can't get out of that box to the other information on your phone. I think this year, more than any other year, it's time to really take control of your data, guys, because it's getting, the scamming is strong this year for sure.
Yeah.
So check it out, abovephone.com. I've got an affiliate link in the show notes, and they'll know I sent you. Plus, definitely use that coupon code. Welcome to the live stream, Pack Rat and Red Flyer Media. Okay, second sponsor of today's show protects all of the appliances in your house if lightning strikes. That's right, it's EMP Shield. EMP Shield makes the best protection device on the market, and it comes with a $25,000 insurance policy. So if their device fails and your fridge gets fried, you get a new fridge on them. However, they're so confident about their device, I don't think that ever happens. They have like a wall of fame at their factory, which is all the fried devices that people have sent in. If you do get a device fried in like storms like we had last weekend, then guess what? You can send the device in and replace it for $50. So that's another thing that's pretty darn cool about EMP Shield. Check it out, empshield.com. LFTN is the coupon code to get you $50 off your shield. And you can go whole house, whole car, whole camper, whole solar system, all sorts of stuff. We don't have one on the solar system yet, do we?
No.
That's next. I've been doing one thing at a time. So my house is protected. The roasting shack / swim spa is protected. And I think the solar system is next.
I don't know when they're coming out. So something with the fence charger.
I don't know.
You got the contacts.
Well, I don't know if that's something that's reasonable to try to protect. Like from a can you protect it standpoint. So the question is, can you protect your fence charger with a device? And the problem is the lightning strikes the fence, and then it goes down the line and fries the charger.
That's a conversation I'd be interested to have with them.
Yeah, I mean, I know who you can talk to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, check it out. EMPshield.com, Strong Roots Resources. Welcome. Hey, Carrie's got an event this weekend as well. It's, I think it's called Creating Abundance, 4-hour permaculture style class. Check that out at strongrootsresources.com. His site's a little foobar right now, and I will be actually talking to him about that. I'm going to hopefully get that navigation out the top. So if you have trouble finding the event there, like shoot an email to strongrootsresources@gmail.com. I'm sure Carrie will hook you up. Abundance abounds. Yes. Okay. He was going for an alliteration there. Do you know what an alliteration is?
I don't know. My brain just went to something else for a second.
Okay, so abundance, A abounds. That's an alliteration because it's like two words that have the same letter that start.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was listening to that marketing book this week, and that's one of the clever marketing ploys to get people to remember what things are called.
Yeah.
Another one is rhyming, like living free in Tennessee. Some of us just do this. I have long regrets about that because people think they can't listen to my podcast unless they're from Tennessee, and that is not true at all. Like, I have rules about who can listen to my podcast, first of all, and it is relevant for people not in Tennessee, but, that is what it is. Anyway, let's get into our first topic of discussion today. What do you want to talk about? You don't know? What's first on your mind?
There's so many things on my mind right now.
Choose one.
I was just trying to remember what I saw blooming like yesterday, and it was the elderberry.
Elderberry's blooming?
It's not blooming, but putting on leaves.
Oh, it's putting on leaves. So this is the cool thing about elderberry. It's one of the easiest things to propagate in the entire world. You just like put it sticks in the ground and it grows roots.
Yeah.
And there's been a gallon-sized bag of an interesting cultivar of elderberries in my prepper pantry while we've been doing work since a month ago. Those are starting to sprout leaves too. And if we put them in the ground, we'll get plants. So I would propose that we do make time today and tomorrow to put some of those in the ground. Because that's not like, we have wild elderberry here, guys. That's a cultivar that Ryan Steva dropped off at the seed exchange that we did. So, yeah, like literally you put it in the ground and keep it watered. Especially this time of year, that's a very good thing to do. Is Chestnut talking to you?
I'm getting cold-nosed.
Why are you getting cold-nosed?
I don't know.
Hi, Chestnut. Chestnut's joined the live stream today. Okay, so we had some like legitimately crazy weather. And I live in Tennessee where we get crazy weather a lot. But last weekend, we had a series of dangerous storms go overhead. We had a lot of lightning. And I measured between 6 and 8 inches of rain here. Although the other, like the weather guy in the county measured 4.5, I think. And he uses an actual rain gauge and I use a bucket. So, because Nicole Sauce is not capable of being a responsible adult and dumping the rain gauge out before it freezes and cracks. So then buckets are like way more resilient. So I don't know if we got locally more rain, which is possible, or if like maybe a bucket's flared a little bit so it pools more rain somehow. So that's something I may play with that a little bit and see if I can get something a little bit more reliable to measure with. But anyway, we got a lot of rain at once. I think this is the most rain that Tactical has seen in 24 hours here. Is that correct?
It's the first time that I've seen the culvert going from the pond to the creek underneath the road get overwhelmed.
Yeah, so we almost flooded the road. He asked me this morning, have you ever seen that culvert stop working? And I said, well, 1 or 2 times I've seen the water actually up over the road from the pond. And the one I can remember, because it was also the year that Nashville flooded so badly and people died, is the 2010 floods. We had 22 inches or 24 inches over 2 days fall. So it was way more rain than what we just had.
Yeah.
Like by a lot. But this was a lot of rain.
This just seemed like a lot in a short period of time. So the runoff was bad and it had a lot of velocity and force to it.
So we all made it through the day. And in advance of the day, sheep got moved as best they could. And were you out in the rain much that day? Like he was going between waves to check on everything. But then when a wave would come in, it's not like you want to be on a hillside on a 4-wheeler in the lightning. Yeah. So we were being careful of that. Our friend Trisha had 2 sets of funnel clouds go straight over her property. Luckily didn't touch down, but she got some serious wind and a lightning strike. And the lightning strike took out her fence charger. So when I checked on her the next day, because that was Saturday to Sunday, when I checked on her on Sunday, it was Saturday to Sunday, right? Yeah, because we had all day Sunday to doink around trying to figure out what was up with all the flooding. She's like, my fence charger doesn't work. And I'm like, do you have an extra one? And she said, no. And so he met her with some testing things. He gave her, we have 2 extra fence chargers, right?
Yeah, we've got 2.
Yeah, so he gave her one of ours because she uses the same brand and model of fence charger that we do. Which if you have a homesteading community around you like we do here, and y'all can agree on a fence charger you like to use, that's actually not a bad strategy to have backup plans, because we were able to give her our fence charger. She was able to just plug it in and use it. And then I'm sure she's ordered a replacement. And he keeps 2 extras on hand. Can you tell them why you keep 2 extras on hand?
At this point, I'm down to just using 2 fence chargers, which at one point we were running at least 3. I think at one point we were running 4.
Yeah, I mean, I had 3 when you came here.
Yeah, and so I've had situations where one would, for whatever reason, stop working, and I swapped the fence charger out, and it miraculously fixes whatever the problem is, and then like later go out and power that fence charger that I pulled off back up, and it's all of a sudden working. So I've particularly with the stuff in the pasture, I've swapped them a number of times, bring another one inside for a while, and then it magically starts working again. So I don't know what the deal is with that.
Yeah, sometimes they just need a break, like you.
Apparently.
Well, and the one that we use can be 110 or 12 volt. So you can plug it into a battery or the grid.
And we have started to swap over to a different one.
Yeah. So which one are we swapping over to?
We're swapping from the Premier one to the Cyclops.
Yeah, so that's what I thought we were. Do we still have a Premier one here?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I just gave her.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So we're going to a Cyclops, which is more expensive, but they last longer. The Premier ones are the ones we've discovered need to take a break every so often.
Yeah.
But don't throw them away when they need to take a break because they might work again in a month.
Yeah,
and there is a reset in there that like gets tripped because I did talk to them on the phone. Like there's something you can switch out that gets, it's like it's not a fuse, but it's something like a fuse.
Yeah, so that's another reason I was going to the Cyclops is they have built-in fuses on both sides.
Yeah. So anyway, it's nice when you finally find the equipment you like to like hone in on the standard for the property and then keep extra ones on hand, especially critical things like a fence charger. The fence charger is responsible for keeping sheep in or goats in or pigs in or cows in, right? And if your fence charger goes out and you have to wait, even with rush shipping a day or two, your only other choice is to go to Tractor Supply and buy the crappy chargers they sell. And they don't sell good fence chargers there. And like, they also they don't pack enough of a wallop for our sheep anyway.
Yeah.
It's like 10% or 5% of it's less than that. It's probably 0.01% of the shock that our fence chargers deliver. Yeah, if the animals touch them. And that's been key to keeping the animals in much of the time, although not all of the time.
I think the main ones they sell are 2 to 4 joule, and I'm running a 12.
Yeah. So that's the deal. So Sunday morning, Tactical goes over to the pasture, and I'm like, I'm going to get stuff done. And one of the ewes she's walking and just like collapsed
twice,
and then she got up and then she collapsed and then she got up and kind of acted normal. Yeah, so he was like, one of the ewes just collapsed twice and I think you need to come over, but it's not an emergency, so thanks for telling me that. And then I was like, well, what's going on? Like, what do I need to bring with me when I come over? And so we ended up catching her. I trimmed her hooves because it might as well every time I have an animal trim their hooves.
Yeah.
And her hooves really needed it. Like, I want to go back and do another round on her hooves. And I also really wish somebody would show me how to do that because I'm just making that up as I go and have been for 3 years now. And with the goats the whole time. So she got back up and was fine and hasn't fallen over since that we've seen.
Yeah, she's been fine. Like, she literally fell over twice within a couple of seconds. She got up, took like 2 or 3 steps and fell over again. And then after that, she just seems perfectly normal.
Yeah, and so her color is nice under her eyelids. She's skinnier than I'd like her to be. Because then I did an assessment, like, how does she look? Does she look like she has a parasite load? She's skinnier than I'd like her to be. She's nursing 2 babies. So it could be that. I talked to a friend of mine and they said, well, try giving her some selenium. Just because it's like the selenium's not going to hurt her, but if she's low on selenium, it can start all sorts of stuff, including their immune system not being great. So we ended up having to find selenium paste at the store because I don't keep that on hand, although I do now. And we got that, gave her some selenium 2 days later. I got it Monday because he went Sunday to try to find it. Did not exist in the store he went to. And the place where it goes existed. I went to the store Monday and got a tube and there was only 1 tube left. Yeah. So apparently everybody's having selenium problems. So we don't know if that was it, but it didn't hurt to do that. A friend of mine who I know pretty well on Facebook put up a notice this week that they need to liquidate their uncle's vehicles because he's going to an assisted care facility, and just listed the vehicles. And this is somebody who I have a history with. I've been friends with him on Facebook for 8 years. And we have historical conversations about the projects we worked on together in the past. And he was like, I got to go out of town for a week. If you want to hold a vehicle, send me a deposit. And so I was like, well, I'm interested in these 2 vehicles, one for my mom, one for here. But I'd really like to have a bill of sale that says, that's in writing, that's signed by both of us. How does that sound? He's like, sure. So I send him the bill of sale. And he's like, oh, I can't sign this till I get back. And I was like, okay, well, how about less deposit then? Because at this point I'm like, and then I asked him like, hey, just because a lot of scams happen online, can you tell me how we met? He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, there's a lot of scams online and I don't know if you're you. So, and then he sent me a picture of his ID, which was not an answer to my question. So then we were like, well, we'll send him $25 and see what happens. And we tried to send him $25 and Venmo declined it as a fraudulent account. And so at this point, I'm like, I'm starting to suspect that my friend's account had been hacked, Yeah. But the story was very good because all of that stuff's been going on in his life legitimately. And I've been like there for his journey. So it wasn't like I didn't know his uncle was already declining before this happened. So then he's like, well, send it to this other account. And he gives me like a completely unrelated to any name account on Venmo. And so I look it up. I didn't actually try to send anything to it. And it's like known fraudulent account. I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't send to that one either. It's the weirdest thing. So at this point, I'm playing the game. I'm like, how about PayPal? And so he sends me a PayPal and I look it up and he's like, but you have to send it friends and family. I'm like, oh no, I can only send it business, but I'll cover the fees because it's like, 3% or something. It's almost nothing. It's like, no, it has to be friends or family so I can verify it. Well, that's a load of crap because you can verify anything, whether it's friends or family or business on PayPal. The reason to transfer money on business is like for business and services is that if they don't deliver on what they promise, you can get your money back. So the reason he wanted friends and family, I think, was because then you're screwed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I'm convinced it's fraudulent. Little bummed out we didn't like score a 4-wheel drive truck.
Yeah.
But, it's not like we won't find one at some point. I just keep my eyes open for good deals. And it was a good deal. And it was like a little too good, which is why I was starting to suspect fraud before this whole thing started. But then I was like, but it's this person and their account and blah, blah, blah. And then the original post had gotten deleted and then reposted the next day. And he's not allowing comments on the post. So that's why I say the scams are getting really good. Like this person doesn't speak broken English. This person is a legitimate scammer who is probably a native English speaker, probably in this country. I don't know how he got into my friend's Facebook account. I don't happen to have that friend's cell phone number because when he changed jobs, he changed phones and I didn't do the thing. So I may actually call his place of employment next week and try to talk to him and see what's up with that. But it was a close call for sure. Like I was having the conversation with mom. I'm like, well, we could send a deposit, but I really don't like not having it in writing. What we're risking is that money is fraudulently obtained and we've been scammed. Like before we even sent the $25 or tried to send the $25. I was like, that's what we're risking. We're taking a gamble. So
Pack Rat says he saw it.
Yeah, Pack Rat saw that list of vehicles. Yeah. So, and this is like, I'm not going to say I know them as well as Tactical, but if my friend Jana, who owns a property just over the hill for me, had a list of things for sale because she's cleaning out her house after a renter person left a bunch of stuff behind and kind of trashed the house, but there's still, like let's say there's a TV or something. It was that kind of a situation where, with Jana, I would just text her, but she's already texted me twice today with things I might be interested from that I said no to because I just can't have more things here right now. But yeah, So you got to watch it, even people you know. And that's why I think having a safe word is a really good idea. Like we have safe words in my family. He knows what they are and he's already forgotten what they are. And then my sister, I was on the phone with her. She's like, what are our safe words? I'm like, well, I'm not going to say it on the phone because that could be recorded or whatever, or intercepted unless I actually need the word. And I said, but it's like one of these kinds of items and one of those kinds of items. And she was like, okay, I don't remember what one of those is, but I know what the other one is. I'm like, well, there you go. So now we got to use two different. I'll see her in person soon. That's something you establish in person.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if the deal is too good to be true, do something like say, how did we meet? Like the moment he did not answer me directly about how we met, that's when I started to be like, he didn't answer that question. And
well, he did answer the question by avoiding the question and responding with something else.
Yeah. And the known fraudulent accounts I found related to the email address for PayPal and for the other Venmo account, he might be a she, by the way. They were like, this person's really convincing and really good at it. So what they do is they become the person they take over. So A-Ray Pierce says, safe word is meatloaf because I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. Okay, we know that's not as, we know what the safe word isn't for A-Ray Pierce. Yeah. So that's why I said, like, having an above phone and being able to protect your privacy is not a bad idea. So I don't know.
Yeah. And I literally just saw a thing this morning where Amazon is changing their privacy policy with whatever it is, Alexa or whatever devices.
That's already started.
And you cannot opt out of their recording everything.
Yeah.
And
there are no Echo Dots left in my house.
A lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, it's just Amazon. When was it, like a couple of months ago, the Department of Treasury got hacked? Like, so if you're having conversations about this kind of thing with friends and family, don't do it around a device.
That's a good point.
Just saying.
That's a good point.
Especially if you're one of those people that has 10,000 apps on your phone.
We did start spring and it was 26 degrees this morning.
Okay.
Does that feel like spring to you?
Not really.
Does it now?
Yeah. It feels like spring now.
The good news is I don't think so what did you see as the result of the frost? First of all, he walked in and said, I don't even think it got below freezing. I'm like, oh yeah, it did, because I was up at 6 o'clock and I looked outside and it looked like snow.
I wasn't saying that we didn't get frost. I was saying I have not seen a block of ice yet. Okay. Granted, I hadn't really looked for that, but then, you know, when I went down to let the ducks out, it's like, okay, there's some frozen water there. There's some frozen water over here. This isn't frozen. Yeah,
so this weekend on Friday, it was above 80 degrees going into last Friday. Yeah. On Saturday, and that was summer weather. On Saturday, we got all the crazy storms, which is springy. And then it went down below freezing and we had snow flurries in the air. And then yesterday it was windy like it was fall. So we got all 4 seasons. The plants don't know what's up. And I still haven't tapped that walnut tree, and I think it's too late now. I'll have to look.
Maybe.
Mona says it's 22 Celsius. That's warm. That's warm. So first frosty day of spring, and wanting to get the gardens done is a big pressure, as well as getting ready for the spring workshop, because every spring here we have a bunch of people out, and we, like this year, I'm pretty excited to have Alan Booker out to teach us about just perma designing your homestead and other permaculture related things. He's got 2 full half days, which is a lot of time, but he's going to talk about items of permanence, how to work those into your plan. He's going to talk about homestead scale permaculture projects. He's going to talk about a whole bunch of other things. And if we change our mind about what we want, he will tailor the content to us because he's one of the best PDC instructors in the country that I know of. Like, he's that good. And he also like has done a bunch of work on how to make your kitchen more resilient from a permaculture standpoint and from a resilience standpoint. So it's just he's like interested in so many different things, and he's an engineer.
Yeah.
So yep, that's the deal. Yeah, Amazon, who convinced people to try the Amazon Key service to allow delivery people access to your home. What could possibly go wrong? Yeah, no, I would have never
Yeah.
Let your Amazon delivery person put the package in your front door.
Yeah, no.
I mean, if I knew the person, it's different, but it's a different delivery person every time when it's not coming UPS or FedEx or USPS.
Even UPS has been switching drivers up a lot lately.
How deep is the hole by the barn where the water dug out? Is that like 2 feet deep?
I haven't measured it, but it's roughly about that.
So the work that Tactical and I did to divert the runoff last time it rained a lot 3 weeks ago and then snowed worked to keep the barn dry mostly. There's a spring that comes up just under the barn that there's nothing you're going to do about it. And then
nothing you're going to do about it without an excavator.
Right. And then I did a video just showing the water flowing around the barn, which was pretty cool looking. And then it didn't go into the barn area where we had dammed it off, basically. But there's this one place where we used to drive that's got a 2 foot deep, probably 2 foot circumference hole dug from just how fast the water was going.
Yeah, that spot was already
eroded. It had started to erode, so
and this just put a gargantuan hole turning into a trench.
Yeah, we need to find something to put in there.
At this point, there's a spot a couple of feet away from that where there's an excessive amount of water coming out of the ground, and I am not fixing that by hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not paying to get an excavator in here because it's not my property.
Right. Well, we'll see. We can get scoops of mulch from our friend. If only there was a tractor here. Or a skid steer.
Yeah, I think a conversation needs to be had with
with the owners. See what they want to do about it. That makes sense. Let's see, other flood damage. So I went out and checked out the erosion remediation projects that Tactical is going to give you all a tour of for my spring workshop. And I was pleased to see that they kind of worked. By kind of worked, I mean 3 out of 4 of them failed. But 1 out of 4 of them did not fail, and it did slow down the water. Tell them what happened as a result of that so much water. I don't think he ever expected this much water to come.
Well, it's not that I didn't expect this much water to come.
Remember when you wanted to put your house there?
That was a height issue.
Did you see why I was like, maybe that's not such a good idea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of halfway expected eventually what just happened could happen. It was actually kind of impressive to see the effects of it, though, because, I think that a lot of the stuff that I had put in, the logs rotted enough that it was weakened, and we got enough rain fast enough that it just put enough pressure on them that everything started caving. I wish I had seen the sequence that they had gone in, because it would be interesting to see if they gave one at a time, or whether that top one went and hit the next one and then hit the next one, and it was basically a domino effect. But we ended up with 2 new dams on the downhill side and a lot of that material just ended up in one spot, and it's packed in there pretty tight.
We have a new dam.
Yeah, and when it rains, a new pond.
Yeah, if we
The
had
ducks love it.
if we had a like an overflow spillway for that, we could turn that into a pond. Probably.
Yeah, and then I mean that also did a lot of additional damage because I mean there was a Chinese privet that was in a couple of inches of soil that's been there for a while since I've been here, and now it's like the tips of the roots are still embedded in some rock, and then the rest of the plants and the rest of the roots are just sitting on top of slab rock. So it washed out several inches of soil in places.
I could see the water was clearer than it used to be because of your remediation, but I also could see that we were losing soil, which is not awesome.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm talking about a place on my property that when I moved here was bare rock because whenever it rains, the water flows through there so fast it rips everything out.
Yeah.
So it's still bare rock. It's not like we're kind of back. We're not quite back to step one, but
no, I mean, it was definitely worth putting all that stuff in for however long it's been there, 2-3 years, because it's helped remediate so much of the area around that spot. And now basically we've got, I'd say 5 to 10 feet of bare rock going through most of that area. So I think the next thing that I would like to do back there is actually getting the excavator out to move some large rocks. And depending on how much material I have to work with, there's 2 to 3 places where I'd actually like to stack a bunch of rock in. And given the experience that I have with that area now, I actually know how I want to do it to make sure that we end up with something that's a lot more permanent.
yeah. Do you mind giving water to Tigger?
Yeah.
Tigger is 18 years old in
Mr.
April.
Tigger.
And he has some kidney challenges. And when the water bowl is empty, he lets us know very loudly. So Packrat says, my brother-in-law suggests rolling a rutted driveway flat and dusting it heavily with bag cement. I don't know, but I have to do something soon myself. I would look at personally how the water is creating those ruts and where it's coming from. And if you can keep it from hitting your driveway, either by putting culverts in or making berms without exacerbating the problem. We have a lot of steep driveways around here. And the ones that have done the best have had berms put in or culverts put in, and then the water directed to go that direction. In fact, my driveway needs some of that work done now too, because it was pretty good, but that much water was a challenge. So, yeah. Now that is animal noises. Yeah, that is animal noises. Garden bed 3 is up and planted, and I hate all the dogs who went over there and dug in it after I planted it, and now I don't know where any of my seeds are. I went over there and like a full 25% of the bed was dug up by his dog who got yelled at, but he informed me the other dogs also helped.
Oh, Cece's definitely been in there.
Yeah. So all the beds that are up and running that dogs would be tempted to get in now have an anti-dog defense system in until we can build a fence around my garden space long term.
Yeah.
But the garden space has to be finished before that happens. So now I'm going to go reseed the beets I seeded, and then I'm going to have something similar to a tossed salad garden, like I did the year 2010 when it flooded, where all my seeds got moved everywhere, because my seeds got moved by a stupid dog. And probably for years after this, the occasional beets will germinate and show up. So that's happening. Yeah. Yeah, look, Packrat, you have a steep dirt driveway. So the reason ditches exist on the side of roads is to help keep roads from eroding, first of all. So when I say berm, I mean like a berm will direct water somewhere, but then wherever the water has to go could cause an erosion problem depending on what you do. So you want to think about, where can I send the water? How can I keep it from going as fast? And if it can only go fast, how can I make that happen so that we don't have a bunch of erosion happen? And that's when you might actually bring in some concrete, in strategic places. My buddy Pat next door used to have a series of like diagonal speed bumps that you drove over on the way up his driveway that kept his driveway mostly washing out. And then one of his tenants put in a tile that failed during the flood this time. And then they've done the chip and tar on there, but not enough tar. So the other thing is, a dirt driveway with gravel is a dirt driveway with gravel, and sometimes things happen. So we have that issue over at base camp where the runoff completely carved out the culvert during this flooding event. The culvert got replaced when they put the city water in, and they put a culvert that's, I think, 8 inches around, which is not, I knew at the time wasn't sufficient, but I didn't own the property. Yeah. They also put the city water line through that and then covered it with soil. And so there's like a new lake that forms on the, I can show you where they made the lake. That lake that happens in front of that property when it rains happens because the city water install was so fubbed. They did a really bad job. Like they paid no attention to runoff or making the road. Like that's why that culvert doesn't work at the wash. They filled it in. I don't know why this big round pipe is here. I'll just put dirt in it.
I was actually just looking at that one.
Yeah, and it flooded, and I called them. Like they came here and they had their equipment parked in that area. And there's flooding everywhere. And I walk out and there's a bunch of frustrated looking men going like this. And they're like, why did it flood here? It didn't used to flood here. And I was like, because you put dirt in the culvert. And they looked at me and they looked at the culvert and they weren't really happy with that answer and they just left it. But you could tell they were like, oh, okay. But at first they're like, why would she know that? And it's like, because I've lived here. One of the biggest things you can do when you move to a new area is talk to locals about things like this, because they know, because they live there. And if they say something that doesn't make sense, like water always pools here, listen to them anyway.
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, the county came through the other day with a piece of equipment, and I was like, hey, the road floods right here. Could you dig a trench from right there to right there? And it was like 15 feet long. And he was like, sure. And it was only a couple of inches deep, but on the lighter rains, it's actually doing what it should do and actually going through the grass and not across the road.
Yeah. Micro earthworks make such a big impact. That's true. That is very, very true. Okay, so garden bed 3 is up. Garden bed 4 is not up. And I think we're hoping to get that up this weekend, but we'll see how it goes. No promises, right? You never have promises.
Yeah. I mean, I got a couple of buckets full of dirt now. Yeah,
I probably could start making some biochar tomorrow in between stuff. But I'm also still working on Paperwork Monster this weekend. No. Paperwork Monster is literally in front of me right now. So that garden bed will be where some of my warmer things go. Like I have 6 Swiss chard plants to go in there, but that's going to be where the first round of green beans goes. And then I've been really tempted to get my garden fork up in the old garden, since it doesn't look like you're going to build anything up there anytime soon. And just throw out some gourds and like winter squash and runner beans. And then if they die, they die.
We'll see. Alan Booker is going to be here in like a month. And he is an engineer.
Well, I mean, I have seeds anyway, so it doesn't matter. But the duck egg production was down again last week, as we reported, and we added black soldier fly larva, which is really hard for me to say apparently with my words, that's been dried. So like freeze dried black soldier fly larva, which is a protein source. It's got a fairly high amount of protein, 2 cups a day to the flock. And by the next day we had doubled egg production. It was that fast. And at first I was like, was it that? But then it stayed high. So it's almost like you turned a switch on. The feed we're getting with the peanut protein is 16%, and I think they need 18%. I think that's what's up. So we only really needed to raise it a little bit. He also found where they were hiding some eggs this week. So
I think that must have just started too.
Yeah, ducks hide their eggs in the duck litter in the coop. That's what they do. So we've been doing well with eggs. We might actually make it, like, I'm at the point where I'm like, how do I save enough eggs for the spring workshop? Because I want to make sure at least one of the egg meals is duck eggs. All of the Scotch eggs, I've made 52 of those, are duck eggs. So that's good.
Yeah.
And then the adding of the protein has been nice. We do have the sunflower seed sprouting system up, but I want one more bucket in the system. And did the ducks like them yesterday when you fed them to them?
Yeah, they didn't eat all of it, but they did.
Yeah, that was enough for 2 days. So,
yeah.
So he started feeding the ducks yesterday. I haven't fed ducks sprouted sunflower seeds in a long time, so they had forgotten that they're delicious. And once they figure out they're delicious and they figure out it's part of the routine, there's going to be ducks all up in his face.
Yeah, and there was also I called them yesterday and everybody was just like pissed off. And then in the evening, when they normally start to congregate in the vicinity of the duck coop, there was like 5 or 6 of them there. So I threw a little out and started calling ducks, and they started making a bunch of noise, and that resulted in everybody else having to come over and check out.
They were like, wow, this is really good, guys. Come check this out. And then everybody came because ducks are big gossipers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
hopefully today, like if I call them, they might actually come.
Yeah, and I think I have another bucket of sprouts, and then it's going to be 2 to 3 days before you get sprouts again because I didn't soak any last night. So I'm planning to put the soaking system on the other side of the house where all my prepper pantry stuff is. Right now it's out under Taj Mahal, but it gets too hot under there in the summer, I think, to appropriately grow. I was originally going to build it out there, and I'm like, actually, it gets pretty hot out here in July.
Yeah.
So, and then that's not the ideal growing situation for sprouts.
Yeah.
So, although in July they're eating a lot of bugs. So, that is what it is. Prepper pantry, we've made some good progress on it. Ryan Steva was out yesterday and he framed in the last wall and insulated it. And now Tactical gets to move all of the utilities and it's time to panel. I need to finish sealing the floor. I sealed part of the floor before Ryan Steva came and I painted that one wall that needed to be painted. I'm going to actually go in there this weekend and vacuum it all again and clean it out and then seal that one area I already sealed a second time so that we can slide the freezers back to their permanent spaces. And then I will seal the other side, assuming you're not going to be tromping through there. So we'll just coordinate on that.
Yeah, I mean, the paneling needs to go up before we permanently move all the utilities stuff. So we got time.
Oh, do you want to put paneling? See, Ryan wants you to move it before he puts the paneling up. You two need to talk.
Apparently.
Yeah. He was like, there's no reason not to just do all the utilities, I guess. We could put the paneling up.
Yeah. The goal is to have the utilities on the outside of the paneling.
Okay. Well, we might need to do a road trip then because I need to go pick up paneling at some point or find out if I can get it delivered from Home Depot, not Lowe's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm using Luan, and then Ryan was like, don't use Luan because if it gets wet, it will warp. And there's this other paneling stuff that's $2 more a sheet. That's basically, I'm putting siding in. It's not paneling, it's siding.
Okay.
And it's just like flat siding, and then I'll seal it and then put it in. So if we get that, I can start the process of pre-sealing it, which wouldn't hurt. Maybe I should learn how to use my paint sprayer. I've been wanting to do that. Why did you just have a big sigh about that?
For most applications, I hate paint sprayers.
Okay. Why?
I don't think they do that great of a job. You usually have to thin the paint out, which is not as good, and they make a huge mess.
Okay.
Like overspray is a huge thing with that.
But when you're doing lots of panels, it kind of makes sense.
Depends on your perspective.
If I could have painted the roasting shack with the paint sprayer, I would have. And the reason I didn't is I needed the really thick paint. But if I did a second coat, I'd totally spray it. Because I'm like, I have the good foundation there. But that stuff is like rough cut.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. We need to paint base camp too. That's going to be fun.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, especially since Nicole doesn't do that high.
Yeah.
I'll have to see if Kurt wants to come visit. Anyway, so the prepper pantry is coming along. I have hope that I'll be able to put things away soon. Ryan's going to be out next week, so we do need to align with him on who's doing what when. So it's clear. Okay. And it is time to move utilities either way because paneling is going to start going up either way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the GSD weekend is next weekend here. So I was hoping to be able to already have started moving things out of the carport for that so we have more space for GSD projects.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, I only have one RSVP right now and then a couple verbals from our friends. So
Lazy.
Huh?
Lazy.
It's not lazy. I think people don't realize it's going on.
Shameful.
It's fine. If just that one person and the other couple of people come who said they were going to come, we'll have a good time. We'll eat really well and we'll get a lot done. I promise you. So, okay. What was I going to talk about? Oh, the round roast. If you guys saw my video, I had these 2 whole round roasts that I got from the cow quarter that I bought from Ken Esch. And I defrosted them with the idea I was going to put some spices on them, sous vide them for 22 hours, put them in the fridge and cool them down, and then slice them for lunch meat. Okay?
Okay.
That's how you make roast beef lunch meat. It's super easy. And you sear it first so it has that nice crust on the outside. So I get the pan all heated up and I get them out. And I remember I was like, wow, these are kind of thin round roasts. But okay, I thought it was the whole thing, but whatever. And I pat them dry so they're nice dry for a searing. And then I move them to the pan and it starts peeling like an onion and comes apart in these 1/8 inch thick sheets. And I become aware that the round roast is cut for rouladen, which is a wonderful German dish. And it's called a rouladen cut. And I don't know if that's why they're cut that way, but I'm pretty sure Ken told me when he handed them to me that they were sliced. And I forgot. I promptly forgot after saying, oh, that's awesome because I love making rouladen. And so last night for dinner, I didn't know it was for dinner yesterday anyway. I was like, we're having rouladen. And I proceeded to make the biggest mess in my kitchen humanly possible making rouladen. And then we had dinner and he'd never had it before. So what are your thoughts on rouladen?
It was good. I was surprised at the fact that I could cut that meat with a fork.
Yeah. So basically you take the flat, thinly cut round roast and you salt and pepper it. You put mustard on it and you put things in it. And one of the things you put in it are pickles and carrots are traditional. Bacon can be added. And then you roll it up into a tight roll, rouladen, and then you put a toothpick through it, brown it in your pan, and then you put it in the oven in an oven-safe dish, and you cook it until it's tender, until it's fork tender. Oh, onions in there too. Yeah, onions in there. Some people put celery.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like there are recipes, but you can do whatever. And then you use wine. After you're done, like, browning all your rouladen, you put like a half cup of wine in there to take the meat bits off the pan. And then you pour all of that liquid in the oven for it to bake. And some people add bone broth. I'm still making bone broth right now. I started making bone broth yesterday for the spring workshop, and I'll finish that out tonight. And I was thinking I'd use some of that bone broth, but then I was like, the bone broth isn't far enough along to be good. So then once they've baked, and mine baked for about 90 minutes, you pull them out at 350. You pull them out, strain the liquid off, and then you thicken the liquid for gravy, and you serve it with gravy. A lot of Germans will serve it over potatoes or spätzle or whatever, something like that. We don't really eat a lot of carbs here, so I served it on a plate with gravy. And then there was salad you could put on there. But
I'm fine with that.
yeah, and then I didn't actually strain out the onions and carrots from the mirepoix. However you say that, mirepoix. I don't know how to say that. You guys can make fun of me later. But I did after the rouladen were done, I sauteed all the rest of the onions and celery and carrots that I hadn't put in rouladen until they were soft, and then I added that to the pot too, and those were delicious. Yeah. So I made enough rouladen because I had defrosted both of the round roast packages to do 2 dinners, or 2 dinners for we 2, or 2 dinners for a family of 4, because he eats for 3 people. And I'll probably bring those out on like a German night we do. I think we should do a German night with the Eversoles at some point because Steve's mom was German. And then everybody can get one rouladen to taste it, but we can have a lot of other things with it, which would be nice. But they're ready to go in the freezer at this point because I was like, well, since it's defrosted, I'll get those rolled too and put in this tray and it's good to go. So that just makes me want to have more rouladen cuts the next time I process a cow. But I also want to know that I have rouladen cuts, which, as I said, I'm pretty sure I now remember Ken saying something about it being cut for that. And I sent him the video of me being like, so I was really, really surprised when the round roast was rouladen. And I just happened to have all the supplies on hand to do it. I think next time I make it, I'm going to put garlic in too, just because I like garlic. And none of the recipes call for garlic, but garlic totally grows in Germany really well, and it would be better with garlic.
Well, I kind of, after having that, if you can find a way to keep the contents and onion, jalapeno, mushroom, and cream cheese as a filling for that would be awesome.
Yeah. Well, Alan Bouchard's wife sent me her recipe, which is the way I learned how to do it in Germany, where you put thinly sliced carrots that are as wide as the meat, like 90 degrees to the length of the meat, and the pickles. All of the recipes I saw online had them all finely diced. Yeah. So we kind of had finely diced stuff. I think it's better with the whole stripes of pickle and carrots. So next time I do them, I'm going to do it that way.
I think that would have been easier to eat.
Yeah. So that was delicious. I'll get, I've got pictures of everything along the way, and I'll have an article for that up on Living Free in Tennessee at some point. Also, for those of you who are on the weekly mail, and a couple weeks ago, I told you about my awesome carnivore recipe of the week, carnivore Scotch eggs. And then there was no link. That was my ADHD eraser thinking I had done something I hadn't. And I realized I sent that out without linking to the article. And then I went to go look at the article and there was no article. So there is now an article at livingfreeintennessee.com with the Scotch egg recipe. And it's just the effing recipe. There's not a lot of story about it. It's just like, here are the ingredients. Every step of the way, this is how you make them. This is how you cook them, done. And a picture of the Scotch eggs. So, sorry about that. Sometimes I start doing a thing, and in my mind, I've checked it off my list, and that one was not written on the list, so I failed my system on that one. And then I get interrupted, and I think I've done the thing, and I haven't done the thing. But then the to-do item has disappeared forever. So, yeah. It's on livingfreeintennessee.com, and I do have the cook with what you have advice in there as well, which is just like, if you don't have this spice or that spice, like make it anyway. Substitute something. Like my spice that I was supposed to use for these Scotch eggs for the workshop, I didn't have a bunch of time, so I used dill instead, and they still taste really good. So, yeah. And that's why the book I wrote is called Cook with What You Have.
Funny part is I know where tons of thyme is.
Well, in the yard, but I needed dried powdered thyme for this particular one.
Oh.
Yeah. My tomato seedlings are up and they're looking great. And like they were kind of half off the mat. So half the tray germinated, half didn't. And then I turned it around and the other half did. I germinate seeds in about 3 days for tomatoes on seedling mats. They take 7 days if I don't do that. But we're on par for having a good tomato year. and I'm getting to the point where it's time to train the ones that are going to be in the Kratky hydroponic system on hydroponics, and then I have ones that'll go in the soil that we need to figure out where they go, which probably means getting bed 4 up. Bed 5 and 6, I asked Tactical if we could just set those up to be in-place compost bins so that they're ready by, for the fall garden in July or even next year. But I have 3 more beds to put up, and I was thinking if I just concentrate on these 4 for this year, what it means is I'm going to have to buy green beans from people because I don't have enough space to grow all the green beans we eat. But we can take our time to get the soil really nice on the other 3 beds by composting in place. And I think that's better long-term than forcing it to work with whatever materials I can find, which is kind of where we're at with bed 4, where we have soil to put in there, but it's not like garden soil. And I'll probably do some biochar this weekend. And then as much fertility as we can add with worm castings and compost tea and rabbit poop and all of that, and the biochar, but it's just not going to be as good as if I had all compost in there to start with and mixed with some soil. And so we will see. I have an item on here about Swiss chard, but it has a typo, and I had to figure out what it meant. A friend of mine's taking 6 of my Swiss chard this week because all of her seedlings failed, and that's why we have friends. That's all I got to say about that. The watercress patch is not up, so I'm starting to be worried about that. There's been a lot of big rain events this year, and I'm hoping we didn't wash the roots away.
I doubt it, and even if that did happen, there was some rocks moved around over there.
Who moved
recently.
Rocks?
I did.
So I go on I go on walks all the time in the woods by myself, and I will see what looks like a not natural line of rocks that's clearly intended to change how water flows. And I'm like, the redneck's been back here moving rocks again.
Yeah.
But I had seen that in the creek, actually. I saw your stripe.
So I'm sure that pins some of the roots in place.
Yeah, they're probably fine. I've been here 18 years and almost 18 years. And the watercress patch there has always come back, including in 2010 when the water was also up over the road there. So.
And then I also know of 1 or 2 other places
where the base camp has a watercress patch.
Yeah.
And that will not have washed out.
That would not have washed out, and it's going to be the same stuff, so we could reseed basically.
It's probably because it got down near 0 degrees twice, and that second time was way later in the year than it usually gets that cold. That would be my guess. So, I don't know. Watercress is something I like to be eating in my wild salads at this time of year. It's considered by locals to be a tonic that helps, they call it purifying your blood. And what they mean by that is if you've accumulated toxins in your liver, it's supposed to help with those. So watercress in the salad is what we want to do right now. And then I prefer the wild watercress over the stuff growing in my aquaponics system, which I also have watercress in the aquaponics system that's up right now. So what's she into?
I don't know.
An egg. Is that an egg?
No.
There's a dog getting in trouble.
Yeah, she might be about to get yelled at.
Okay, take your mic off before you yell at her. She probably got into the garbage or the compost.
She got into something.
Yeah, there's a compost. There's a compost with bones in it. We compost our bones, but sometimes the dogs find them and then they get yelled at. That's what happens. Now, obviously the dog's just doing what the dog wants to do and what the dog is instinctually inclined to do. But at the same time, trouble happens. So I don't know. He's checking it out. Anyway, tonight for the Holler Neighbors, 2 things. For the storm, we actually had our radios up just in case the internet and power went out. And it didn't. We were really lucky because a lot of people lost power. But we're having game night tonight. We haven't had one of those in a while. The Eversols are coming, and I'm doing taco meat, which I had intended to start already in the crock pot, but it looks like I'll be doing it on the stove because I forgot this morning. I got really into roasting coffee and getting the orders out, which has been done. But Tracy's bringing us smoked pork shoulder, and that'll be like, so we'll have pork tacos, we'll have beef tacos, and then all the sides, and play some games. And we'll see how late I stay up. Usually it's like, yeah, let's play games. And I'm like, it's 9:30. I'm going to bed. So we'll see if I make it or not. But we were supposed to hang out with them last weekend. And after all of that crazy Saturday weather, they were like, we're kind of too tired from all of this to come out on Sunday for Sunday dinner. And I was like, valid. Stay home, get your stuff done, recover from the flooding. Like, because I'm sure they had a lot of water on their property too. So I'm looking forward to that. We haven't gotten to do that in a while, but that's everything from the homestead this week. I haven't seen any questions that we have not answered. So guys, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, you can do it in 2 ways. 1, get your coffee at hollowroast.com. 2, consider becoming a member. The member webinar on Sunday is all about starting small scale events on your homestead. If you are a member and you've been having trouble with your coupon code, which more than one of you has, apparently somewhere on the membership portal, I have the wrong code. So I'm going to go try to figure out where that is this afternoon. But if you're trying to get in and can't get in, send me an email, Nicole@livingfreeintennessee.com. With that, go out, make it a great week.